Welcome to the Influential Christian Entrepreneur Podcast, where we uncover the inspiring stories and strategies of successful Christian entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of interviewing Rob Z. Wentz, who is an executive leadership coach who specializes in helping businesses grow bigger, better, and faster by using the VITALS system. Rob is also a Christian entrepreneur, best-selling author. He's the podcast host of The Unstuck Movement. He's a social media marketer and strategist, award-winning radio personality, speaker, and influencer. For over 20 years, Rob has been connecting and engaging with people in various forms of broadcasting. Hey, Rob. Nice to have you here. How are you?
It's awesome to be here. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. And I love what you're doing. I love the idea of the podcast, and I'm just honored to be an influential Christian entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I enjoyed being on your podcast a couple of weeks ago as well. I think this is probably the third time that we meet face-to-face via Zoom, so I guess I should consider you an actual real friend now.
Yes, I consider you the same, so that sounds good to me.
Yes, and we've met online probably, I don't know, a year ago, and I've just watched your content, and I guess you watched mine, and then you reached out, and then and so we've had some we're getting into some deeper conversations here.
And I love your boldness on Facebook. You're inspiring me to be more bold in my faith on social media, because you put the Lord out there, and you let the people come, and whether they're agreeing or disagreeing. And I love to see that. I love to see how you're convicting people. Well, the Lord's convicting people through what you are sharing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and honor you in that.
Thank you so much. It's a hard thing to do, because you don't want to be that person who because let's just say when you speak the truth, it's always going to offend people.
Yeah.
And just by putting it out there, people are really going to get mad at some of the things you say. But I feel convicted, like you say. I feel compelled to say the truth, regardless of how people see me, or how people feel about it, which puts me in a tight spot, because many times even Christians will be upset because, I maybe didn't say it in the right tone, like they should have, or other Christians may see it as, and I'm not making this up, Christians will actually message me telling me this, you shouldn't condemn people. But when you state the truth, it's not necessarily condemning. Another thing about it is, when we write, people can't hear your tone of how you're saying it. So when you write something that's very bold and raw, they may hear it as a condemnation, as you're condemning, when that in fact is not what you're doing. But
I'm with you.
That.
I mean, my mom does it to me all the time. She'll write a message, and she always uses ... afterwards. So instead of using a period, she puts ... So she'll write, okay, that's fine, ... And I'm like, is it not fine? Did I do something? You know what I mean? So yeah, text can be misconstrued very easily.
It can be misconstrued very easily. So, I wanted to know more about you, because last time I was on the podcast and I talked about myself, but I wanted to get a little bit deeper into your story and your testimony. We spoke about how it is that you came to Christ. You gave me a little preview, but I wanted to go deeper into that. Can you tell me about your background? How did you grow up? Do you have siblings? All about your life. I just want to know your whole life. And then how did you find Christ?
Sure. Yeah, so I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was, I don't know, like one. I was very young. And then they both got remarried. So I had two sisters on my mom's side, and a stepdad, obviously, and then a brother and a sister and a stepmom on my dad's side. And I grew up with my mom's side of the family. I saw my dad's family like every other weekend. So there was strain there. That was difficult, because I felt kind of like, I guess, a cousin to my dad's side of the family for a lot of my life. But growing up, we went to church. So I was baptized Catholic when I was a baby, because you get baptized when you're a baby in the Catholic Church, and you have no idea what that means because you're a baby. And then we started going to Lutheran, because my stepdad's family was Lutheran. We grew up in like the country, so we went to a Lutheran church out in the country. I got confirmed Lutheran, We went to church on Sundays most of the time, up until maybe I was like 18. Then I just stopped going altogether. I was a Creaster Christian, which is you go on Christmas and Easter, and that's it. And I just never had a relationship at all with God and I was in youth group, and I actually smoked weed for the first time at youth group. So, so I mean, the trajectory there was not great. We didn't really talk about church or Jesus or anything outside of church. It was just like something you went and did. No conversation outside of that. So obviously I had no relationship. So as time went on into my late teens, 20s, I just kind of fell away from the church. And I think that for me, I definitely was not an atheist, but I definitely, at one point in time, I thought that like God was an alien, right? That was a theory that I had. Oh, he's like an alien who comes here and visits us every once in a while. And blah.
Yeah,
just like when you have no like biblical understanding, you just make up stuff. And I watched a lot of like Ancient Aliens, so I made up this theory. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if heaven's real. It sounds ridiculous that heaven would be real. It sounds crazy that the streets are paved with gold, and just make up whatever you want, and you believe what you want, and you don't believe what you don't want to. And so I was married and divorced now to the woman that I was married to, but we kind of had just like this loose theory of what God might be, and I never really paid a whole lot of attention to it. So as time went on, that was kind of just my stance on it until I was leaving. I spent 20 years in radio broadcasting. So some background there. For whatever reason, growing up, I loved radio. When I was 10 years old, I was doing a pretend radio show in my bedroom. I just always loved the idea of radio. So I ended up doing that as a career for 20 years, from the time I was 15 until around 35. I spent that time in radio broadcasting in one way or another. And when I decided to leave my full-time job in radio back in 2016 or 2015, I really planned on leaving, but then still didn't leave for a couple of years after that as I planned my escape, right? Because I built a digital marketing company to leave radio. But it was interesting, as I left my radio career in April of 2017, I had this calling to work with kids because I love kids. I just have a connection. Like I always have felt like a kid myself, so I wanted to work with kids in some way, shape, or form. And a woman that I knew that I didn't know was Christian connected me to a guy who ran a youth organization. It was a Christian youth organization. His name's Micah Marshall, amazing guy, runs Refuge Youth Network. And Micah and I sat down. I left radio in April of 2017. Micah and I sat down in May of 2017, and we had like a 3-hour conversation. And he encouraged me to go to a church. He said, you should check out this church. Because I was always very curious. I'm just a curious person by nature, so I'm always dipping my toes in things, right? So I was really into meditation. I was interested in Buddhism. I was interested in just a lot of new agey things. So I would go and get Reiki.
There.
Yeah, I would go and get Reiki done. I had tarot card readings. I'd done all the things that you shouldn't do, but I did, right?
Those too.
So. But then I started going to church, and I started going to church in June of 2017 to the church I go to now. It's called Community Worship Center in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. Amazing church. And Pastor Keith Deal is the pastor. He's an incredible man of God, and I've gone through many addiction issues throughout my life, and he had been somebody who had been addicted to heroin and, selling heroin. And his testimony is, 15 years he was shooting up $300 a day worth of heroin every single day, right? So his life was just chaos and lots of death and destruction and, torment for himself and the people in his life. So I really connected to his story, which a lot of people do, right? And it's amazing to see how God uses people like that because his whole life has been so turned around and transformed. So that really attracted me to the church. And that was kind of the journey that I had began, which was something that I wanted to share on this, talking about Christian entrepreneurs. It was amazing how the beginning of these past 6.5 years of my entrepreneur journey has coincided with my spiritual walk with Christ and my Christian journey. Really interesting how as I stepped out in faith in my business life, my career, I also did not know that I was stepping out in faith going after Jesus. And God kind of revealed this to me. Like, this has been my walk the entire time. And when you go off on your own, you really you have to have faith in something. You have to have faith in yourself. And I found faith in God through that, right? But as you go off on your own, you walk into this adventure of life, and where there's less of you, there's more of him, right? So I think that that's really what God was showing me, is as there was less of me to rely on, because I had to now rely on growing this thing, God showed up and has really walked me on that journey. And it's been amazing. It's been super difficult, but it's also been very fruitful. It's been everything and everything that I needed that I never knew that I needed. So there's some of the story.
So was your conversion just like a process, or can you identify a moment where it was just like it hit you? Can you think of a specific moment, or was it just you went to church and there was just a slow, seamless transition into following Christ? How did it work out for you?
There was a lot of resistance from me because of all of the new age stuff. I already had so much information in my head, so much knowledge of other things, so much knowledge of worldly things in my head, that it has been for me a very long, it feels to me a very long transition. It's only been 6.5 years, and I got rebaptized on Pentecost Sunday in 2020. So right in the midst of the pandemic, I was going through the separation, which led to the divorce of my first marriage. So that was a pivotal point too, that baptism on Pentecost Sunday in 2020. But I think because of all the new age, I know, because of all of the new agey things I had been involved in, the addiction issues, I also had dabbled in psychedelics and ketamine treatments and all of these different things that I think really clouded my vision and confused me.
Yes.
It's been a slow progression. Now, looking outside of myself, it's probably been very fast to take the first 34 years of my life compared to the past 6 years of my life. It's been a very fast conversion, but for me, it feels very slow. And some people I know get baptized and boom, everything changes. Yeah. It has not been that way for me. It's not been like a boom, everything changes. But I can point to going through my separation and divorce from 2020 up until the start of 2022, or the start of 2023, that was a very radical shift, because that's when I joined my men's group, and that's when I really dove into the word, and I had to rely on God more than ever, because I was going through such a difficult point in my life.
Yes.
So that there really was so little of me. There was so much more of him, because I could not rely on myself or my own feelings or my own decisions of the way things needed to go, or how I felt or thought things needed to go. I really had to rely on God to show me like how to walk through that. Yeah. So I'd say, beginning in probably like March of 2021 was a huge shift for me. Right.
Because the acceleration happened right as you were having the divorce, in the middle of the pandemic and everything else. There's nothing like, when you are in the middle of challenges, those can definitely move you closer to God, for sure. I mean, for some people, it might throw them apart, set them on a different path, and they may decide to go away. But what I find is that a lot of people who actually get closer to God or find God do so when they are in the middle of the most difficult times in their life.
And that's very true, right? It seems to be one or the other. You either get pulled away and blame God because things are happening, or you move towards God and embrace him. And with my ex-wife and I felt like we were doing the opposite of each other, right? So I was getting closer, and maybe I can't speak for her, but it seemed like she was getting further away. And so that for me was a huge turning point. Yeah, I felt like I didn't have any other option. I didn't feel like there was anything else I could do but surrender more to God. So it's interesting when I think about like people falling away from God in times like that. That to me would have been death. I don't know what I don't know where I would be right
Yeah.
now or how I would have gotten through any of that without my faith. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, mind boggling to me that somebody couldn't dive deep into their faith during something like that. I find it harder for me to dive into God when things are going really well, which is interesting,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Like, I don't need to right now. I'm super happy.
Well, yeah, and well, maybe. Well, let me think about that again, actually, because when things are going really well, I do praise God a lot, and I do seem to pray more. But when things are going well, it's almost like, oh God, everything's good, and I don't maybe I don't seek Him as hard, but I know when things were tough in that period, I was seeking Him really, really hard. So I think I'm realizing something right now as I'm saying this to you, that I need to match those two. I need to match those two things and
Not let go when things are going well.
Staying
I
aware.
find that, but see, the difference is you've already become aware of it. You're becoming aware of it. Your heart is already open. I find that people who haven't found Christ yet and things are going very well for them, that is sometimes a real obstacle because your life is going well. You got money, you're happy. Like, what? I'm manifesting everything. I'm manifesting everything with the power of my own mind because I'm powerful.
Right.
And I don't need anything outside of me to manifest all these things. So obviously I'm on the right track.
Yeah. I am my own God. Here I am.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Now, I've seen people actually say that you are your own. We're gods and goddesses. I'm like, I
had a guy that I
think
found.
gods and goddesses poop.
If they do, they poop rainbows, right? I mean,
I know, right? And we certainly do not poop rainbows. So what kind of gods and goddesses are we?
It depends on what I eat, but
not to get but one of the biggest, like after my conversion, because for me it was like I made the decision to convert in 2020, but I spent 2.5 years in limbo, not because I wasn't at a church, because I didn't have any mentor. I spent 2.5 years not knowing exactly what to do next until it occurred to me that I'm supposed to read the Bible and pray. Right? But during that time, two of the things that were hardest for me to give up was the idea that abortion was wrong and homosexuality. Why? I'm not saying that this is personal experience, but it was a very strongly held belief of mine that, for example, how they always give the example of if someone is raped, it's not their fault. How are we going to force somebody to have a baby that wasn't even their fault? And it's like punishing them and like, there's so many people who can't afford. So I had all these ideas from my previous, till I saw a hard fact that the percentage of people who get raped, as it relates to abortion is like a really tiny percentage of most, like the vast majority of abortions have had nothing to do with rape. It's just birth control, essentially.
Right.
That's kind of what made me, but there were so many other things. Like I did not see anything wrong with, it's not born. So it's like, what's the difference? So many misconceptions that I have. Like, I thought, well, if the child is going to come into a mother that doesn't want him is going to mistreat him, he'll be better off in heaven. Like, why bring him into this cruel world? This world is horrible. Why would we bring more people here? I had all these wrong ideas. And then about homosexuality. I mean, I grew up in New York City for a little while in my young childhood, and all of my mother's best friends were all gay men. And there was even one I don't know if it was an actual, transgender, let's just say. So I grew up around a lot of gay people. And so the idea that I always had the idea that you are born that way, right? Like you are born. It's not your fault that you're born this way. But I didn't understand the spiritual aspect of it. There's more to that. And I had the hardest time understanding, well, what are these? Like, I cannot reject gay people. It's not about rejecting gay people. It's like, you can love a gay person. You can be friends with a gay person. It does not mean that you accept the sin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I had the hardest time with that. And so those are things that took me a long time to get over and say, okay, and surrender, those two things. I don't know what it was for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because if I just like I've known lots of gay people throughout my life, and like I don't know how this sounds. Gay guys are always a lot of fun.
I know,
they're
right?
always like upbeat and like it's just they're funny to be around. They're entertaining. They always seem to be in a good mood. I don't know. I've never had any issues with them, and I don't still.
Yeah.
I look at it like, well, how did God make people? Like there's a plug in a hole. Like those that just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way we're designed, these two things go together to become one. Reproduction. If we're people, we're supposed to reproduce just like every other animal does on Earth. Like that's how it works. That's the way that it works. That just makes sense. But it's not saying that. Man, I pray about this a lot, and then that's all you do is you can just I pray about it. I pray about it to like for God to give me a revelation of it, because to me, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to be gay and to say you're gay and you want to but you're a Christian and you want God to like help you figure this out. I can't imagine how hard that is because it's such an identity.
I know, right?
So I can't sit here and be like
pray the gay away, even though
I got to give it up to God and just and just pray to, like, God, you this is under your control. I can't do anything about it besides pray about it.
Pray about it.
And love people.
Love people.
Because I don't want to ever hurt anybody's feelings with it. That's not my intention of condemning somebody with it. I just pray about it, and God will work how He's supposed to work.
Yeah, but then it is in the Bible that it is a sin.
It is a sin. Well, yeah, I mean, but also a sin is a sin is a sin. Like everything. Yeah. Me lying to myself in my head is as much of a sin as. Somebody being gay is, or somebody murdering somebody, or it's all falling short of the glory of God, missing the mark. And so something that's helped me so much, I love near-death experiences. Not that I want
me
to
too.
die.
You and I have that. Have you seen that movie that just came out, After Death?
No, I've heard a lot about it. There's an amazing book that one of the guys in the movie, I guess, wrote the book Imagine Heaven. And Imagine Heaven is all near-death experience stories from a pastor who's compiled these stories over the years. And it's just a phenomenal book. I've been obsessed with near-death experiences for a long time.
Me too.
I firmly, truly believe God gave us, as we end we're in the end days, right? We've been in the end days for 2,000 years. And as we get closer to the end of the end days, that God's going to pour out more of His Spirit on the earth, and so He's given us this blessing that we're able to bring people back from the dead, and they're able to tell of what happened, what happens when you die, and so one of the reasons I want to mention that is, there's things that are revealed that there's no lust or sex in the afterlife. It doesn't exist. We're not getting married in the afterlife. We're not really having sex in the afterlife, from what I can understand from these near-death experiences. And also, it says in the Bible,
like your spouse is just like becomes your brother or sister.
Yeah, and that's what it says. And even in the Bible, it says like they ask Jesus about like marriage after you die, or I forget exactly how it is said. But there is no marriage after you die. Those things don't exist in heavenly realms. And so that was clarity to me, number one, that this is just a temporary physical life thing. It's not, it's a physical, worldly, fleshly thing. And then also there's an amazing story of this little kid, Colton Burpo, and the book is called Heaven is for Real. And also in the book, Imagine Heaven, the story's in there. But Colton Burpo visits heaven when he's a little kid, and his mom later on has a miscarriage that nobody knew about except for the dad and the mom. Nobody else in the family knew about it. The kids didn't know, right? But Colton, in the book, says to his mom about the little girl who didn't have a name, and he visited her in heaven. And so this is going to what you're talking about with abortion and wrestling with this. This gave me conviction on this, like that this little boy met a girl that was his sister, but she didn't have a name. And he told his mom this, and she breaks down crying, obviously, because she had a miscarriage. But that little girl, her soul, her spirit, is alive in heaven. So that whether or not the baby comes to full, the baby is born, there's a soul there that travels on. And it just gave me this conviction of like, well, life is life no matter what stage. Because our society tries to program us and tell us that, oh, when the baby's first conceived, the soul is not there yet. The soul doesn't show up until blah, blah, blah. There's just nonsense.
It's nonsense. And it's been scientifically proven that there is like a burst of light that happens at the moment of conception.
I just saw that a couple of weeks ago, actually, that burst of light. And not that I conceived, but I saw a video, right? And I saw this video, and then scientists try to prove it away. Oh, that's just the zinc. That's zinc or something. It's like, who cares if it might be physically zinc, but there's a burst of light. Explain the freaking burst of light.
Yeah.
So it's just, wow. To me, it's like, just wow. But you have to have faith, and I think that's where where a lot of people get confused. Like we all have faith in something. And if you don't believe, you have faith in science.
And the wrong thing's right.
But to me, everything points to God. That's how God reveals it to me. And I, sorry, I'm going off on like a tangent here, but I feel like for people who don't believe, it's really easy not to believe when you don't spend time learning about God, when you don't spend time learning the Bible. And you may have tried to read the Bible, and I tried for a long time. It was very hard to read because I had so much head knowledge that got in the way of what God was trying to show me. But as I got mentors to teach me, and as I spent my own personal time, things have been revealed to me. And now it's like unequivocally, I know this is the right way to go.
It is something that just starts unraveling. It starts unraveling all that head knowledge that we had that was getting in the way of not seeing. You saw my posts. You saw the answers. You saw how misguided people are. And to think that I was that person only a few years ago. And
Francine, this is, same here. That's how misguided I was. I saw on one of those posts that somebody said that Jesus was a Buddhist, or Jesus was a yogi, and he traveled through India in the lost years, and he visited all of the great teachers in the lost years, and that's how he learned all these things. I used to believe that. I had a book actually called The Yoga of Jesus, and it tried to explain this stuff, and I bought into that crap. And in the lost years, we don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that I bought into so much crap just like you did.
And because, I so deeply wanted to know the truth, but also at the same time, I didn't want to find out the truth because it's more fun to live in the mystery. And it's exciting.
You want.
Yeah, it's exciting to live in the mystery. But what I realized too is like I would invest my time in all of these different conspiracy theories and different things, and none of them brought me to truth. They all just continued down these rabbit holes. But when you read the Word of God and you start to learn about the Word of God and people start to teach it to you, it's like, no, here's the truth. Now, there's, of course, still things we won't understand fully until we get to the afterlife. And then I don't think it really matters anymore once we get there. But everything else that I ever invested my time in was just... this is the best way I can describe it, mental masturbation.
It was like, and it gave you so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety, restlessness. And since I've turned away from all of that, and yes, you have to have faith, right? A lot of things in the Bible, like you said, you're not going to fully understand, but there's where your faith comes in. The sense of peace, lightness, and joy. That's how you know you're on the right path. versus what you used to feel when you were in the new age and all the conspiracy theories and the aliens and the rabbit, they just keep the rabbit holes they will keep you in that rabbit hole for a lifetime if you do not pull yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I looked at during 2020, right? 'Cause we had a great awakening in 2020, right? There was a great awakening, and so much, QAnon came out and all of that. And I started to realize this during the whole QAnon thing, because it was always like, next week they're going to reveal the truth. Next week these things are going to happen. The government's going to fall. Blah blah blah. And then it was like every week, this is going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen now. Oh no, wait, hold on, it's going to happen now. And it reminded me of like a Nostradamus or something who's like, oh, I got it 5 years off. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I got it this month. Was wrong next month. Oh, hold on. Maybe this month. It's like, you guys.
So many conspiracies. Wow.
And I realized that I was because it's like, it's fulfilling in the sense that like, it's this excitement that something's going to happen that nobody else knows. And what it is. And it's exhausting, really exhausting. So once I let all that go, I felt like this giant sense of relief of like, oh man, this feels good.
Occasionally, I still think I see those type of posts. Like I used to see back in the day, like these little message boards. I never really got totally into it, but I understand what you're talking about, QAnon. It was a big thing on a certain side of the political spectrum, on the right side. And I still see those little boards out there and people still, and I'm like, but the thing about those type of conspiracies, and all conspiracies and all deception, is that they always carry some truth to them. Mm-hmm. And because if it were totally insane, then nobody would believe it. But they always have a grain of truth, which is what Satan is a master of, using the little bit of the truth and wrapping it up in a huge big lie to deceive us.
Yeah, and just to distract us, right? So it really is destructive because it distracts you and pulls you off course. The one that really pulled me off course for a while was like this whole, and you're going to laugh when I say this, the whole flat earth conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting in the sense that if you look at heaven and hell and there's like a hierarchy of lower levels of hell, higher levels of heaven, we're in the middle. And to me, it doesn't matter if the earth is round or if the earth is flat. What matters to me is we are, what it revealed to me was this. And I prayed to God. I was like, God, I need to let this thing go because it's so ridiculous. But reveal to me what I need to learn from this. And what I got was that we are so much more important and more valuable than we could ever realize. And what we have been, the world or what Satan has tried to train us in is that we are meaningless, floating on this ball in the middle of an infinite universe, and we have no meaning or purpose, and we're lost out here, and we're never going to be found. The truth is, we are very valuable. We are very important, and everything that we do matters. Every single one of us, and what it matters is for the glory of God, and God is calling us to that. So that's what I pulled from that was how valuable we are.
Yes, I got that too. I don't know if directly related to the flat earth theory, which at this point, I can't say, I've never seen the earth myself, so whatever, but.
Right. Well, that's exactly,
I don't know. I've never seen it. So is it flat, is it round? I don't know, but I have, based on what you're saying, that how the world has taught us that we're just a speck in the universe and so many planets with life and we are insignificant. That's how I used to believe before. And now I realize, wow, those were lies of Satan. We are so important to God.
Yeah.
So important to God. And I got that same lesson out of it. Probably not from there, but I know exactly what you're saying. And I mean, you see them all and they all make a lot of sense. All of these, they could be conspiracies. Maybe some of them are true. Now I know the COVID one. Sorry to say COVID. that one was a real one.
Well, I want to touch on this insignificant thing because, like, what a trick by the devil to make us feel insignificant, and also the people, whoever the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to say,
Mhm.
The people that are in power who are demonic, because those people exist. They would want us to feel insignificant. The devil would want us to feel insignificant because then we have no inherent value. That destroys our self-esteem. It destroys our self-worth. It destroys what
And
God has
hope.
given us. So
Yes.
then the devil can do whatever he wants with us, which is what is happening to our society.
Mhm.
He's just wreaking havoc on us because we don't feel like we have any intrinsic inherent value or worth. And I felt that in myself, and I see that in people all the time. And it's so glaringly obvious to me now. But what a great trick that's been played on us.
But then when we don't have that real sense of value, we don't understand what our true value is.
Yeah.
Then we put all our value in, we're going to make 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures all day, all night on Facebook.
Right.
Right? I'm going to have the beach laptop lifestyle. I'm going to travel the world, traveling. That's the thing that will, fulfill you.
Yeah.
Having material things and all of this. And so, I feel that a lot of people only have one priority, that it is to make money, to feel safe, to hopefully insulate themselves from whatever the heck is going on in the world, to be able to, do things with their family, but they are neglecting the most important thing, which is their eternal soul. And they don't even know it, and they don't even know it, because I know that because I was there. Like, I had no idea in the danger that I was. And I don't know what I did to deserve that God would actually give me grace and somehow open my eyes. And I told you that my conversion was literally through the internet. I don't know what I did to deserve that. And I just hope that, I think you have to come to a point where you kind of humble yourself in some type of way. There has to be some type of opening for the Holy Spirit to be able to work through you. I feel like if you're extremely hardened, and that's why it comes back to when you're having a really hard time, it's probably the best time to do that.
That's when he moves the most, because you throw your hands up. And
Yeah,
you're like, crap, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I think that's what happened to our whole world during COVID. That's why there's been such a great awakening, is because people had to throw their hands up and be like, dear God, I have no idea what is happening and what I'm going to do about it. And we also had time to stop. So the enemy thought he was winning through that, but people had time to stop. They had to be at home with their family. And if things weren't good, my goodness, the things that were revealed to you in those, the 2-4 weeks that we were like all stuck in the house together, however long that was. It seemed like much longer, right? But those things were revealed to us as to, here's where your life is really screwed up and you're going to have to face it. Like, talk about a come to Jesus moment. It was like, you're going to have to face all these things that you've been avoiding, and they're not good. And if things were really good, then I guess your life got much, much better in that period. But if things weren't good, man, all those things got revealed and brought to light, and you had to slow down. And this is why life's so important, to slow down, because when you're running at full speed, it feels good because you're accomplishing a lot. But when you slow down, and I love so much being out in big open spaces, and just taking. I've been in my part-time, I've been doing some landscaping and hardscaping with a guy's company that I work with. He needs some help, and I've been doing this part-time, a couple hours a week, and we work in these. I'm in central Pennsylvania. There's lots of country out here. And I'm working in these big open spaces, and it's just so freeing to just toil in the ground, to build stuff, to use my hands. I'm out in nature. It's sunny or it's not sunny. It's windy or it might be rainy, but I'm just outside. And there's just so much of God to just take in. And I feel so free in it. And there's time to think. There's time to let my mind wander. So I think that's these past 2020 and beyond has just been a giant wake-up call for our society to call us back to what we're supposed to be doing and not what we're distracted by.
Yeah, yeah. It was like literally, I felt like I've lost my mind clearly. I don't know what's going on. And then I saw evil. For me, the idea of there being an actual Satan, devil, and true evil was kind of like, okay, that's kind of like superstition, right? But then after 2020, I saw it was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really was. And if that exists, if it's real, if Satan is actually real, then God has to, not that I didn't believe in God, but I was like confronted with the fact that there has to be a God, because how else are we still here breathing, And so 2020 was a real wake up call. Now, I wanted to ask you about, with Christians, us Christians now, whether we've been Christians, I find that Christian is a big tent. Like, there's Christians, people who I used to think I was a Christian just because I thought Christ existed at one point. Mm-hmm. You can tell me any different that I wasn't a Christian. I didn't know that I actually wasn't a Christian. But for us who are Christians and we are entrepreneurs, or maybe we work at a company, we've always been told that you should never bring two things to work, politics and religion. And I don't call it religion, I call it faith. But we've always been told that is a thing that you do not do, because your faith is a personal matter. And if you were to bring it out into the workspace or the market space, it will offend other people and it's not professional. What do you think about that? Is it okay to bring your faith out openly, express it publicly in a business context?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still walking through this myself, and neither you or I work in an office environment, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't have the I look back at my years in radio broadcasting, and I worked in an office building with sales staff and with office workers and with radio stations. And I was not a Christian then, so I wish that I would have been, because man, it would have been interesting to be able to go on the radio, and because you can. Here's what I'm still a work in progress. But what I've noticed in myself is that the way I act, the way I speak, just the way I carry myself and the way I show up for people in their life, they're going to ask, it's going to come up, right? I'm going to sprinkle God in somehow. And I find ways to sprinkle God in, but I'm not like an over-the-top kind of Bible thumper with people. You can tell by the fruits of the way somebody lives their life that something's different. And people will ask you or approach you because they can tell something's different about you. You can sense a Christian when they're around you. And I used to have, when I first met Micah Marshall, who helped me in the beginning there and still helps me. I love the guy to death. Or my pastor, Pastor Keith, I'd be around these guys and I'd be like, when's the other shoe going to drop? They're not like this all the time. Like, what, he's always so kind and polite and pleasant. And even when he would tell me he's struggling with something, he's still so good. And I'd be like, there's no way they live like this all the time. And then I realized, well, these guys do. This is how they live their life all the time. This is possible with Jesus. And it made me want to be more like them. It's contagious. Just like misery loves company. You get around somebody who's miserable, it's contagious because you can fall into that, or gossip. You can fall into it so easily. But if you're around somebody that makes you feel good, it's going to convict you, number one. But it's also going to, you want, even if it feels weird. For me, it felt weird because I was like, why am I not? I want to be like that. But also I was kind of like jealous of them and angry at them, which is weird to say.
Angry at them for being so happy all the time.
Talk about Satan working in your life. Good Lord. Like, man, if you're upset, but it's that conviction. So I think in the workplace, yes. Look for any opportunity you can to shine that light. I would say shine it. Like find a way to shine that light. If I was in an office environment now, I would definitely, I might have like a cross. Maybe I get like a cross necklace or have a cross on my desk or something about God in the room that would let people know that I believe. And be subtle about it, but let it open those conversations. But the more bold I get in my faith, that will evolve over time to where I'll, straight up bring it up to people.
Right.
Right now, I bring it up to people when I feel it's appropriate, but I see great Christians in my life who they bring it up to people because it's always appropriate. That's the thing. It's my own perception of like, is this appropriate or not? Is this going to make me feel uncomfortable? Really is what it is, right? And that's sad. I might be worrying about like, is that person going to feel uncomfortable? But it's really about me feeling uncomfortable because they might feel uncomfortable. But and I've been praying about this a lot. And I'm sorry that all your questions lead to very long answers from me, but things just keep popping up in my head. I have a fear of man, right? So I've noticed this throughout my life, and this is something God revealed to me recently. I especially have a fear of being rejected by men. And this comes from my childhood, I'm sure, from my parents getting divorced or something along those lines, right? It doesn't matter where it came from necessarily. What I've noticed is I have much more of a fear of man than I do of a fear of God. So I'm praying to God to help me with a healthy fear of God so I don't fear man anymore. And when you don't fear man anymore, then it's on like Donkey Kong at that point.
That's exactly where I am. It took me a long time. I did not want to express it publicly. I didn't want to make it part of my personal brand.
But you're inspiring me, Francine, and I'll tell you that because when I had you on my podcast and you're talking about one of your things that you're doing now is helping Christian men over 50 connect their faith with their business. Now, I'm not over 50 yet, but I will be, right? Maybe more gray hair and I'll look like I'm over 50. I don't know. But it inspired me to be like, she's totally right. You're totally right. You need to blend those worlds together. They need to be one and the same because what other purpose is there in life?
Well, and the thing is, I think what comes to mind to a lot of people is that to openly express your faith, you have to do it in a certain way. You don't have to sit out on the corner with a sign. You don't necessarily have to post scripture every day on your social media profile or go on live video and pray. Everybody has their own style. And like I said, one of the best ways of doing that is sharing your testimony. And it's not just how you came to God, but it's how God is working in your life every day. That is something that is ongoing, like the journey you're going through. Yeah. That people, of course, cannot miss because you are intertwining it into your personal brand. It is part of you. It's part of your personal story. Yeah. And it's up to you if you want to write a scripture or you want to be a little bit confrontational like I am on Facebook.
Yeah. And I've been praying about it a lot. And I don't know if I told you this or somebody else, but I've kind of taken my social media and I felt like I was being very self-absorbed in my social media. And this outwardly you probably would never be able to even tell, but I felt it. I felt this, like my ego is getting so wrapped up in my social media. So I had to like pull back and change it up. So I post mostly just like I do my podcast, right? So I'll post my podcast episodes, but I've really tried to refrain from posting anything about myself or pictures of me because I'm really, really, and I'm trying to just let God take the reins on what is this supposed to look like for me. And I just want my ego to be out of it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's been hard for me.
It is. It's hard. I had to come to the point for me where I was not afraid of man anymore. Like I came to the point where I completely changed my business, let go of everything I had going. And I came to the point where I did not care what other people thought about me and my faith.
Praise God.
I had to come to that point because for 2 years I was like so torn about it, feeling like I had to suppress my beliefs, what I thought, what I had to say, because I didn't want to ruffle feathers. I didn't want to lose clients. I didn't want people to think I was a Jesus freak. I didn't want people to think that I had lost my mind. And I didn't want people to think that I had a certain political inclination just because I'm a Christian, Yeah. So all those things kept me, hiding my light under a bushel. And I came to a point where I'm like, you know what? I am so tired of hiding. And actually what I'm doing is denying Jesus Christ like Peter did. And so for me, that's how it felt. And I
Yeah,
will not
I
deny
hear
him
that.
any longer for any man, for any person. And so, well, when I started putting out stuff, people were like, huh? Well, I lost followers for sure. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's how it went for me. And we just all come to our own, you know, different, our own way of doing things. And there is not one way of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And so you'll get there eventually.
Yeah. And God will guide me to where I need to be with it. And I'm just in that process. But I wanted to let you know again, even though I already said it, I respect you so much for doing it because it gives me like an added jolt of like, see, this is what it's like. This is how good it is. Like, it's good. So it's really good. I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, I wanted to ask you about in the work that you're doing, I know that you're doing a podcast and you're also coaching. What type of people do you coach in leadership?
What was that noise? Did you hear that?
No,
Okay, I heard some
I'm on
weird.
your side.
My computer made a noise. Yeah, as far as the people that I'm working with in coaching, my main objective in general in life is to help people find breakthrough. So to know breakthrough strategies and help to create the climate and environment for people and businesses to experience the breakthrough that they desire. The main thing that I help people with in helping their business grow bigger, better, and faster is to help them find the right people, help them to train the right people, and to keep the right people as their employees. And that all goes back to leadership. So I work with some solopreneurs who just have their own company. I help people with their marketing and coach them through their marketing. I help some businesses that have 10, 20 employees and help them build a vision. Like you said at the beginning during my bio with the vitals system. So the main 6 things that I love to help people with is the V, figuring out their vision and aligning their team to that vision. The I is for impact. So how are you creating impact in your life, in your business? What does that impact look like? Right? Because if we're creating impact, then people know who we are and we're aligned with our vision and our mission. And impact is so important. The T is for technology. How are we utilizing technology, whether it's social media, maybe it's AI, or whatever it might be? How are we utilizing technology effectively in our business? The A is for action. So making sure we're taking action. If we have the vision set, we want to make impact, and we've got to take action on the things that we're doing and not lollygagging on that. The L is for leadership. So how are we being great leaders? What does that mean to be a great leader? And the S is for service, which I think is the most important part of it, is just being of service. If we have a mindset of, I need to be of service to other people, not just selling my product, but I need to be of service to the people that are in my life. Here's a small example that comes up in my head. I was working with an amusement park who hires lots of underage employees, 15, 16-year-olds who get paid under minimum wage seasonal work. But talking to the leaders in that company, how are you, this job for that 15-year-old, this job might be meaningless for them. And it might seem meaningless. They're only there for a summer. But you as a leader have the chance to pour into somebody's life and to be of service to them. And if you're of service to this 16-year-old and you just help them find out what their strengths are, find out what their skills are, what are they good at, and why are they good at it? Helping them to find something in themselves that maybe nobody has ever helped them see before. That is the definition of leadership. Mm-hmm. So really, I think about Jesus and like what would he do in these situations? You want to help people find breakthrough in themselves. You'd want to help organizations find breakthrough in the sense that I need to be of service to everybody all the time. I need to help people become better leaders, whether that's in my house or that's with my friends, whether it's on social media, whether it's where I work. Even if I'm not in a leadership role at work, I can still be a leader to other people. And that comes from me leading my own life. And as a person of faith, that comes from God leading me. So when you ask who I work with, I work with all different kinds of companies. I work with chiropractors, right? I work with landscapers. I work with solo entrepreneurs who have marketing companies. I work with some affiliate marketing organizations. I work with doTERRA products, those sorts of things, essential oil products. It's across the board, different industries and organizations, but the main goal for me is to help them find that breakthrough that they're looking for. And as time goes on, I'll define that more. I work with podcasters too, helping people launch their own podcasts. As time goes on, maybe I'll niche that down into something much more specific, because they always say in coaching, you got a niche. Pick the niche, right? I'm still a couple of years into this. I haven't picked my niche yet as far as an industry goes, but I know what God wants me to do, because it's what I want to do for myself, is find that breakthrough and help people find that.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure out that niche. The only reason why I know that my niche now is to work with Christian CEOs who are men over 50 is because the Holy Spirit literally told me this. And I questioned it for 2 months. And I'm like, this is crazy. But this is why. And I'm starting to understand the reasons. It's starting to come together, the picture. But if I had not been told this, I'd still be quite general as well. So I can appreciate that from you. And so how could people contact you, Rob? Would they go to your LinkedIn, Facebook, or email, or your website?
Yeah, I think the best way, if you have a Facebook, to get a hold of me is just Rob Z. Wentz on Facebook. Send me a friend request and we can connect there. I mean, that's the place where I connect the most with people. But my website also is leadimpacttransform.com. You can go to the website and reach out to me there as well. But Facebook's where I do most of my communication, and the same name on LinkedIn too. I love LinkedIn also. But just reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation, make a connection, and just aside from just even business, just talk about like where you're at in life and what you're desiring to do. Like what are you called to do? Let's figure that out and find that breakthrough.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And for my listeners, if you are a Christian CEO or an executive seeking to authentically integrate your faith and your professional brand or personal brand on LinkedIn by using your personal stories and your testimony to inspire others to Christ and further God's kingdom, while also leaving a legacy of faith, let's connect. My email is hello@francineSinclair.com, or you can find me at my website, which is francineSinclair.com. And I want to thank you, Robert, right? Is that short for Robert? Hope I have that right.
Yeah, it is short for Robert. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I didn't know if your name was actually just Rob. Okay.
No.
Well, I want to thank you, Rob, for spending some time with me and going deeper into this conversation. I know that people, when they listen to this, they are going to enjoy it, because it only takes that specific person, somebody, to say something in a certain way to click with you, right? You never know who that's going to be. So you might be that person for many people out there, and we'll never know who we've helped till we get to heaven, right? Sometimes. Yeah,
that's what I love. Just plant the seeds. Plant seeds, and you don't know who's going to water them, what's going to happen there. But I love that concept of, if I'm intentional every day, I'm going to plant seeds in people's lives, and that's going to be, you can't even imagine, like you said, until you get your life review when you pass away and they show you all the people you impacted, then you can see it, right?
That you impacted, you're like, wow, that guy heard that from that podcast.
Yeah. I love the thought of that. That's a beautiful thing to think of.
Yeah. It's just like the people who wrote posts that helped me convert. I don't even know who they are, and they don't know me, but when they get to heaven, they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So thank you so much for being here today. To all my listeners, we'll be back next Tuesday with another amazing guest. And I hope to see you back at the Influential Christian entrepreneur. Take care. Bye,
See ya.
Rob.